Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Mansing. Topping our newscast, Governor Kenneth Mapp addressed the St. Croix Chamber of Commerce during their annual meeting Thursday morning. The governor talked to the business owners about some of his plans to grow the territory and what he and his team have done so far. News 2's Erica Parsons has the story.
You know, the governor touched on quite a few areas from that speech, from EDC changes and capital projects to untapped federal resources. But one thing that stood out in that speech were the possible plans for HOVENSA. Governor Mapp said it's possible the HOVENSA Refinery could still be sold.
Some of you may be aware that folks are continuing to fly into the territory and look at the facility. Mr. Godell, the Senior Vice President, Timothy Godell at Hess Oil, and advised me that they believe they have a buyer.
Mr. Mapp told the Chamber of Commerce he would support a sale of the refinery. He wants them to pay the VI government the settlement monies it's owed, but he's not waiting for that to happen. The governor told President Obama and state officials during his recent talks in Washington that the property HOVENSA sits on would be invaluable to the Department of Defense.
I can say to you that in about 15 days there will be a full assessment team from the Department of Defense on St. Croix doing a complete assessment of the HOVENSA property.
The governor says his focus is economic activity, jobs, and security.
We are in a foreclosure arrangement, but this administration is focused on what value activity can take place at that site, jobs that can be created, use of the docking facilities, a networking of our assets of the VI National Guard, and some participation in the nation's policy for homeland security issues and defense.
The governor says with the U.S. and Cuba now in talks, there's a possibility the Guantanamo Bay facility will be returned to Cuba. President Obama's plan has been to shut down the federal prison there, but the other areas of the facility would have to be moved.
I know folks think of detainees, but when you think of Guantanamo Bay, it's a serious training facility for the U.S. government and a strategic location for its military apparatus in the Caribbean region and in the Central American region. St. Croix can become that new bastion of the military presence in the Caribbean region and all of the assets and the training and the fueling.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
News 2 will bring you more from the governor's speech in Friday's newscast. Well, the Committee on Housing, Public Works and Waste Management, chaired by Senator Marvin Blyden, received testimony from several civic organizations and housing departments Wednesday at the Earl B. Otley Legislative Hall. Senators spoke at length about the prevalence of homelessness in the territory. Senator Graham, committee vice chair, concurred, adding that more needs to be done to address the issue of homelessness that impacts other aspects of the economy, including tourism. Later, legislators heard from VI Housing Finance Agency Director Adrian Williams, who stressed the need for more funding, one of the greatest challenges of the division, to assist Virgin Islanders seeking to purchase their first home. Well, in light of the recent measles outbreak in parts of the U.S. and Europe, Senator Justin Harrigan said he contacted the health department to ensure that the territory is adequately stocked with the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. He said he was assured by Acting Commissioner Dwayne Howell that they are adequately stocked, and the department has begun a series of public announcements campaigns. The senator and health officials are encouraging parents to ensure that vaccinations are up to date. According to the Centers for Disease Control, there has been more than 150 reported cases in the U.S. as of February 20th, 2015. A federal grand jury returned a 4-count indictment today, charging Donnie Williams, 31 years of age, of St. Thomas, with federal child exploitation offenses. The first 3 counts charge Williams with receipt of child pornography, and the last count charges him with possession of child pornography. Williams was released on bond after his arrest on January 30th, 2015. According to the indictment, Williams used his laptop computer to download child pornography images from a peer-to-peer sharing network. If convicted, Williams faces a mandatory 5 years in prison and fines of up to $250,000. U.S. Attorney Sharp reminds the public that an indictment is merely a formal charging document and is not evidence of guilt. Well, members of the Smith Bay Community Action Foundation, Inc., along with the faith-based community, say enough is enough, and they met with the police commissioner on Thursday. Now, present was Pastor Weeks, Officer Bruce Flamone, Michael Lampe, Senator Sproul, Sergeant Connell, Commissioner Richards, Chief Foy, and Commissioner Kenneth Blake, Officer Roy Chesterfield, and Sam Ray. Now, they say the meeting was to share ideas and solutions in combating our crime problem, and they presented an 11-point plan that they feel will benefit and enhance the police department's crime-fighting initiative. Turning our attention overseas, a late winter storm is impacting millions of Americans. Travelers are feeling the impact. The snowstorm, with heavy rain, ice, and snow, stretches for more than 1,000 miles from Texas to New England. Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia are the worst hit states. More than 20 inches of snow fell in parts of Kentucky. Nearly 500,000 people in West Virginia are currently without electricity. Some stranded passengers spent the night on cots. More than 3,000 flights have already been canceled. Well, in other news, some terrifying moments as Delta Flight 1086 skidded off the runway and into a fence at New York's LaGuardia Airport. The FAA says the MD-88 was coming in from Atlanta, landing in stormy weather just after 11 this morning. There were 127 passengers and 5 crew members on board. The accident shut down LaGuardia Airport for 4 hours, triggering massive flight delays and cancellations. 24 people reportedly suffered minor injuries. 2 were taken to the hospital. Now, here back at home, Manifa Brathwaite, who is the Public Information Officer of VIPA, the VI Port Authority, said that to her knowledge, there were no advisement of any delays or cancellations at our local airports. Now, keeping our eye on the economy, in what's being called the largest environmental settlement in New Jersey's history, ExxonMobil has agreed to pay $225 million to settle claims that its petroleum refining plants in the state contaminated the land and water. In other news, Google was the winner in Fortune's annual ranking of the 100 best companies to work for. The internet giant snagged the top spot for the 4th year in a row. 60 newcomers also made the list, including Twitter. Here's the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. The Dow, NASDAQ, S&P all up. The Dow 38, NASDAQ 15, S&P 2. Coming up on News 2, a little more about the history of VI History Month. Now, this year marks the 10th year it is recognized. We'll be right back. Time for our VI history. Senator Myron D. Jackson, chairman of the 31st Legislature's Committee on Culture, Historic Preservation, Youth, and Recreation, encourages all to participate in acknowledging the accomplishments of the territory and its people during the celebration of Virgin Islands History Month. This year marks the 10th year. Here's a little more history. In 2005, legislation proposed by Senate President Sean Michael Malone at the time was signed into law by Governor Charles Turnbull with Act 6802, designating March as Virgin Islands History Month. The purpose is to highlight the history, culture, and achievements of the people of the Virgin Islands, including the artifacts, goods, ideas, beliefs, customs, traditions, values, music, and much, much more. Well, the local winner of the $2 million Powerball still hasn't come forward. The winning ticket was sold at the St. Croix Caribbean Lottery office Friday afternoon for the February 28th drawing. The winning numbers are 11, 17, 25, 28, and 46. The Powerball number was 12. The winner has until the end of August to claim their prize, and lottery officials urge that person to sign the back of the ticket so no one else can claim that money. There were 3 tickets sold that won $2 million by matching 4 of the 5 numbers and adding the power play option. Those tickets were sold in Puerto Rico, Tennessee, and the Virgin Islands. On March 7th and 8th, join the Reichl Center for the first family-friendly performance of the 36th season with a mind-bending, mystifying performance by Spencer's Theater of Illusion. For over a decade, Spencer's has been mesmerizing audiences. They are premier illusionists ranked among some of the best. The Spencers have been in the territory since Monday, participating in a series of arts and education workshops with the VI Council on the Arts.
They have something called the healing magic of healing, or healing of magic, and so they're going to do that, and it's almost like an educational seminar on how you can, for people who are less fortunate, handicapped, and so forth. It's going to be an amazing thing for families to come out and see. I behoove all parents, if you have kids, this is a show that you want to come out to see.
Students across the territory have been learning about what the Licensing and Consumer Affairs Agency does. This week marks National Consumer Protection Week. It's also National Weights and Measures Week. Now, since Wednesday, the department's inspectors and officers on St. Croix have been hosting students from different schools and explaining to them what inspectors look for when they check on businesses. They also talked about consumers' rights and why consumers should make sure they are educated about store policies. St. Thomas inspectors and officers took the information to different schools.
Students from each school, they come in. We have a really nicely set up downstairs with weights and measures, and we have our inspectors explaining to the students the function of the Consumer Division and the Weights and Measures Division.
And speaking of Consumers Week, we will be sharing some consumers reports with you on our newscast. Ever wonder what the best tablet is for a child? Well, Consumer Reports tested battery, life, display, readability, bright lights, and response to share their picks. Luz Montes reports.
The Boys and Girls Consumer Reports brought in to check out kids' tablets were quickly mesmerized. Consumer Reports tested 17 tablets in its labs, checking them for battery life, display, readability in bright light, and responsiveness. A kid who can easily use his parent's device will be frustrated with sluggish performance on his own, so you need a responsive screen. This test assesses how tough the tablets are.
The tumbler is a machine that we use to replicate kids dropping the tablet from a height of about 3 feet onto the floor.
Your youngster doesn't want to see this happen to his tablet.
You try to click and get Ruby into the box.
Consumer Reports also checked into parental controls.
Nearly all kids' tablets come with filters and browsers that keep them safe online, and parents can regulate how, when, and for how long they use the tablets.
In the end, top ratings went to the Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 Kids for $200 and the Amazon Fire HD Kids Edition for $190.
Both have over 9 hours of battery life, they have excellent response, and they have some of the best screens we've seen on kid tablets.
Another good choice? The KD Interactive Curio Extreme, which comes with over 75 preloaded games. A Consumer Reports best buy, it's light, slim, and easy to use for $130. This is Montez.
Be sure to tune in to News2 for some more Consumer Reports. So the mysterious helicopter that was spotted flying over St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John with the HD cameras has now been confirmed as a television crew from the Smithsonian Channel filming for the series Aerial America. Now, the show that offers a bird's eye view is a hit and history of our nation. If you log on to www.smithsonianchannel.com, check out the episodes, you will see that episode 54 features USVI. The caption reads, "From the stunning white sand beaches on the island of St. Thomas to the Caribbean reef of Lagoon Point, you never have to travel far to encounter the next breathtaking scene of natural beauty." The hour-long episode airs next year on the Smithsonian Channel. Be sure to stick around. Your News2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.